I was wanted while I was useful, and I'm not wanted anymore. In 2021, an animated movie came out called Encanto. Encanto is a story of a magical family who helps out their little town and does nice things for other people. And through this movie, you get to meet various characters. There are numerous characters, as always. You have the main character by the name of Merida, or Maribel. And you have another character who is perfect. She looks perfect. She is kind of this Disney princess-esque type of character. Isabel is her name. Well, when Disney produced this movie, they obviously have to make things ahead of time and figure out what's going on. And they expected that Merida, the main character, and Isabel, this perfect character, to be the characters that kids would link onto and parents would want. And so all of their merchandising went into these two characters. After the movie came out, they realized something very interesting, that these weren't the characters people wanted. The movie did very poor at the box office, but its online streaming skyrocketed, and its soundtrack sold over 1 million copies. And all of that happened in part because of another character in this story by the name of Luisa. Luisa had the gift of strength in this story, and after a long fight between the animators and the company, the animators were allowed to paint this girl as bigger and stronger. She didn't look perfect. She didn't look like your typical Disney character. And then in her main song, she sings a song where she talks about how all of this pressure to be perfect is beginning to crush her. She looked strong on the outside, but on the inside she was breaking. And her song, which was a major contributor to the movie's success after its release and the soundtrack success, gives us this line: "I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service." Luisa's plain and plight connected with parents and kids who felt the same way. On the outside, everything looked great, but on the inside, they were beginning to fall apart. We can reach a point where we feel that our worth is only based upon our usefulness. And now we don't see Jacob's heart, and we aren't given much of his emotions, but it seems in this rehearsed speech, in this brokenness, he's beginning to show some hurt here as how Laban has treated him. These interactions between Jacob and Laban seem to have bothered him. And Laban goes to his wives, and he says, Jacob goes to his wives, and he says, "Laban has no interest in me anymore." So what's an application? It may be time to go when you are no longer valued. Jacob was robbed and taken advantage of during his time with Laban. The only reason Laban wanted Jacob around was because Jacob could do something for him. He was causing him to get wealthy. But then God turns on Laban because of how Laban has treated Jacob and begins to bless Jacob. And so when Laban was growing stronger and richer based upon Jacob's blessings, Laban liked him a lot. But now that God has turned his attention away from Laban, God continues to bless Jacob, but now he is blessing Jacob at the expense of Laban. Jacob acknowledges the change in the relationship, but he points out this amazing truth. He says, "But God." There are many instances in Scripture of "but God." Life is going this way, but God. Things are falling apart, but God. For Jacob, everything is falling apart, but God. God did not allow Laban to hurt me. Jacob is genuinely scared for his life, but God keeps him safe. Jacob's usefulness has come to an end, and Laban tries to cast him to the side, but God still has use for Jacob. And to finish our aside, maybe you understand why people resonated with this character in this underperforming animated movie. Maybe today part of your story is the feeling that you're worthless if you can't be of service. Maybe others have told you that. Maybe others have pushed that on you. And like Jacob, have rejected you when you can no longer give them something they want. That is a lot of weight to carry. And as the song insinuated, a lot of pressure to live under. Your worth in the eyes of God was not, is not, and will never be based upon what you can do and how you can perform. Even when others cast us to the side, our worth is still found in God. Jacob is dealing with a real issue that connects with us. Those around him only want him until he stops producing for them. And he's being turned away. Now that the blessing has turned from Laban and his sons, the perception is that Jacob is stealing, and this has put his life in danger. But God intervenes. Your worth is not based upon what others can get from you. Jacob still had worth, and God still planned to use him in a mighty way. His name would later be changed to Israel. Your worth is found in God and how He sustains and carries you. Your worth is always based upon what somebody else is willing to pay or to give for the object. You may feel worthless, and you may feel your worth is only in what you can produce, but God doesn't see you that way. God sees someone who is worthwhile, and He longs for that relationship with you. The side character of an underwhelming movie resonated and connected with millions of adults and kids who could no longer sustain the pressure of finding their worth and their usefulness. Eventually, our usefulness to others will come to an end. It's inevitable. But God continues to sustain, support, and love even in that. Why? Because He sees you as worth it. So what should we do when we feel this way? Like Jacob, we should remember a few things. Jacob remembered, but God stepped in and reached out when he felt unsafe and became worried for his livelihood and personal safety and family safety. Jacob showed that God had kept him safe. When we begin to feel worthless, we need to remember that we are worthwhile enough to die for in John 3:16. When we begin to feel worthless, we must remember that God has knit us together in our mother's wombs in Psalm 139. When we feel our abilities have expired based upon age or ability, we need to remember that while we are here, God has a purpose for us in Ephesians 2 and Acts 13. Our worth is not found in what we can do for others. Our worth is found on the foundation of God who loved us and uses us and sustains us. Yes, even if you can't be of service, you are still worth it.